This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am clearly not the only one enjoying the sunshine today. My reptilian friend over here, the rock monitor, is also enjoying it, lying flat on the log and, well, soaking up all the rays. So I'm very happy the sun is out, and of course it's your live safari. It's time through the African bush. Welcome everyone, it's great to have you jumping on board. We're actually on our way to the hyena den, but, well, we spotted this rock monitor here and we thought we would stop and say hello because we normally see the water monitors, not so often the rock, the largest lizards in Africa. My name is Lauren, I do have Johan on camera, and we do have sunshine and blue skies. After the morning that we had this morning, I cannot tell you how much I am relishing this. Everything is smelly and wet, and I'm very much looking forward to the sun drying everything out. So, of course, this is your live safari, the sunset safari, because the sun at some point will be setting, but you must talk to us. We want you to send in your comments, your questions, your banter, your jokes, whatever you may have to keep us going out here in the wilderness. Use @FC on the YouTube chat, hashtag WildEarth on Twitter. You can go to the website, wildearth.tv/explorers, or if you are a kid, please, 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 we're on the move. We're on the move. You must send in your questions, kids, via email. kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. Look at him go. Now he's obviously got enough energy from the sun. Where are you going, mister? Oh, he's back again. See, he's using his forked tongue, just like snakes. He's smelling out prey. He's hungry. The tongue, just like a lot of organisms out here, he's pumping air in, using these sort of motions with his tongue to the organ of Jacobson. I can see him. He's just there, Johan, to the left. And that organ of Jacobson contains all the sort of chemosensory cells. And he's able to smell and understand what's going on around him. He's almost tasting and smelling at the same time, if that's possible. I think he's probably hungry. And it's the perfect time to start hunting because after the rains, all the insects will be out. I can see the grass moving. He's there, to the left, He's coming out. Catriana, not necessarily rare. We get two species in the low veld. As I mentioned, we get the rock in the water. Sometimes the water is called the Nile, but they're not really rare. We just tend to see the water a lot more around water bodies. The rocks tend to hide a lot more in trees, and if they're not exposed, sunning themselves, we don't tend to see them all the time. They're much bigger, and there are physical differences between the two species, but of course they're both monitor lizards. But the rock is bigger, which means that he holds the title of being the largest lizard in Africa. Okay, I think we really have lost him now, sadly. But the hyena den is just round the corner, so we are going to bumble round there. And I'm hoping there's going to be some very wet, soggy hyenas trying to dry off in the sun, trying to get some vitamin D, relish the fact that there's no longer a downpour. Or everyone will be sleeping inside. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm just going to drive round and see, and hopefully we have an active hyena den. My plan for today, if nothing else turns up, is to start checking some of the other dens. Now, we can't off-road. There was far too much rainfall, way more than 20 mils, and that's our sort of limit for off-roading on Djuma. You can do a lot of damage to the soil, you can cause erosion, you can also get wonderfully stuck. Yes. Some of you who have just joined our live drives have no idea how stuck you can actually get out here. So we won't be off-roading, but I think I'm going to start checking the other dens for Intima. And for now, we're going to send you guys down to Tswalu for JP to say good afternoon.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Tswalu. It's myself, JP LaRue, and Davy behind the radio, a camera. And in the distance, we've got a group of blue wildebeest that's resting. There's a little breeding herd, and what we can notice is that there's a number of different age animals inside this group, as well as some of the females that's lying further towards the back, and with the bull further closer to the front. So generally we find that the males are much larger than the females, and then also we find with the horns, just very similar to buffalo, that it actually touches on the center of the skull, where it's slightly more separated with females. So these animals are just currently enjoying the cool air, cooling themselves down, resting, but also with a slight little breeze. Their ability of hearing and smelling has been compromised. Therefore, they chose this open area that they can potentially spot predators that might try and sneak up onto them. We see the same behavior quite often with predators on windy days as well, where species like lion will deliberately lie in the open so that they can detect a potential rival male by means of sight. The one closest to us, very alert. There's a number of others that's also just now starting to move off. And they're basically focusing on us at the moment. No other real threats at the moment. So quite often what people don't quite grasp is the first time that they come on safari is when we refer to a wildebeest as an antelope. And they ask, on how earth can it be an antelope? It is probably one of the strangest looking of all antelopes. And throughout the guiding industry, there's a standard joke that it was the last antelope that was created and all the spare parts were put together. Even when it comes to the scientific name, Taurus refers to an animal, a bearded-like animal that looks like a bull. And those long flowing bearded-like segments underneath the face actually also acts as a dust cover protecting the muzzle and the nostrils from a large amount of sand and dust from entering it. So quite often we also have a number of guests asking us, how does wildebeest in southern Africa differ from the species that we find in East Africa? And one of the main features that we can always look at is that beard that we've just mentioned. And with the East African race or subspecies of wildebeest, they actually have a white beard compared to an all dark beard with the southern African animals. Hi, Jerome just asked, what is my favorite experience of a wildebeest? There's a number that I can think of, and there's one specific sighting that we found really unique. And this was a sighting that we had in the Kruger National Park, where lions took the mother. And never in my whole guiding career have I seen another female wildebeest actually adopting the calf of another female. So a day later, when we came past the same area, we noticed that the one female had a calf suckling on her, and the next moment a second calf came suckling on her. And that was probably one of the most unique experiences that I've ever had with a wildebeest. Hi, Capriona has just asked if female wildebeest can have horns. Yes, they do. And as that they are open plain species, we do find that both male and female have horns. So generally, as we mentioned in the earlier part of this morning show, that the males use their horns for fighting and to protecting themselves against predators. Here, females of antelope species that live in open areas will also have horns specifically for protecting themselves and their young. So quite often what we also find is within species of woodland antelope where the females don't have horns, that every now and then, for example with impala, you'll actually notice that you do have a female with very thin horns at the base. You'll normally notice that they're very thin and very untapered at the base of the horns. But it's quite rare to actually find horns in those animals.
Join our Explorers program so we can keep on sharing nature with the world. For a monthly subscription, you will have the opportunity to win fantastic WildEarth expeditions, have access to an animal identification app, receive weekly highlights from our shows, and much more. All the money will go to keeping these live safaris on air, which in turn connects a global population with nature.
My name is James Hendry, and I work here at Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi sands on the western fringes of the greater Kruger National Park. My favorite part of getting questions from viewers is that we get to have long and varied discussions about all sorts of different aspects of nature. Because our audience comes from all over the world, it's very special to have different perspectives from everywhere. If you want to submit a question on WildEarth, you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to the Live Safari page and submit your question beneath the live feed.
Welcome to my car. This is Wendy, and she's my favorite. She would love to have your name engraved on her so you can be with her every single time she goes on a safari here in Djuma. If you become a WildEarth explorer, you will have the opportunity to buy an engraved tag which we will attach to her. We will make sure to send you a digital picture to show you exactly where you are sitting on her. You will have front row seat in every single sighting.
What makes andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve so special is our massive array of habitats. And with that comes, of course, a beautiful diversity of landscapes, but also an incredible biodiversity in terms of plants, bird life and animal life. as well as, of course, our conservation success stories with cheetah, with rhinos, now with pangolins too.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth.
Unfortunately, no one was at the hyena den. Sadly so. Everyone's obviously still tucked up in bed under the duvet, deciding it's not safe yet to go outside, which I fully understand. There's some dark, ominous looking clouds in the distance. I'm just hoping they don't come to anything. But I'm going to check some other den sites that we know of. Gwen's Den, the Gowrie Main Firebreak Cheetah Cut Line area that some of you are well familiar with, has collapsed. So that one's off the list. And then I'm going to make my way back round to the Djuma clan den. I really want to catch up with them. It's been a day or so. It's possibly only been a day. But I would really like to check up. I want to see... It's a cuckoo. Cuckoo. How do I position for this? At least I think it's a cuckoo. Yes. Can you see that up there, Johan? It could be the levelons. You have to speak French when you say that word. Or you have to sound like you're French, or that you even know the language, which I don't. Cuckoos are notoriously difficult to get on camera. They fly away very, very quickly. So this one is either the Jacobin or the levelons. I'm not sure. I need to get a nice close look with the camera. Just up there, you see the black and white bird? Yeah, there you go. Too late, off he goes. I still don't know if it was the levelons or the Jacobin, but it was one of the cuckoos. We got half a cuckoo on camera, I think. Obviously, migratory birds. The cuckoos come for summer. Winter's such... It's funny... When you're in summer, you're in the heart of summer. Oh, good afternoon to you too. In the heart of summer, the humidity, I'm sweating, it's lush, the insects are everywhere. We have to eat dinner sometimes in the kitchen. We can't eat dinner around the dinner table because the insects are just falling into our plate. You should ask Marcel how he feels about the stink bugs. And you forget what it's like in winter. And then you smoothly transition into winter and you forget what summer's like. You forget the sounds, the smells, the colours, the bird calls. Ooh, we got a bit of a slide here. But Jess, I'm struggling to even remember what it feels like when it's barren and dry and cold and all the migrant birds have disappeared, all the flowers have shriveled up. There's no smell in the air other than the organic-y earth smell. But winter will come round before we know it. And in the UK and in the US, we have 4 distinct seasons. Summer, winter, spring, and autumn. Or the fall. And it's not like that in South Africa. There's no real clear gradient between sort of summer and autumn into winter, and the same again when you're referring to spring. They call it spring and they call it autumn, but it's really not the same as in other countries, in Europe or in the States. There's no sort of real gradient. It just sort of blends into the other season. I would say they have 2 seasons and 2 transitional periods. I think that more accurately describes South Africa's seasons. I really do feel, though, that many species will be getting mobile right now. Leslie, you took the words right out of my mouth, girl. Yes, I think so. I really do think so, especially wet and soggy animals. They want to shake off all the water. They want to get mobile. They want to sort of dry off. And a lot of species also require vitamin D, just like we do. I probably get a bit too much vitamin D, but they also need to spend a little bit time out in the sun. Okay, maybe not in that hot window between 11 and 3 when you're not advised to be in the sun, but you will find most sort of, at least mammals, come out and just spend a little bit of time, 20 minutes in the sun to soak up that vitamin D. So yes, reptiles will be out for sure, insects will be out, I think our mammals will be out, and our birds. I have a funny feeling the fish might stay in the water. Could be wrong, but I think they will. But everyone needs to get rid of all that wetness from this morning. So yes, I think we've got a good chance for spots today, hyenas and leopards. I don't think many people found animals this morning. It was a bit of a disaster. And of course, certain roads are closed, so we'll need to be careful which route we choose to take to be sensitive to the landscape. The sort of structural integrity of the land is very important. We can't damage that. Moonshine. You're asking, is it tough being a game guide? It's wonderful. It's so wonderful. I've done guiding underwater and now on land. It's a similar concept behind both, although obviously in very different elements. You don't talk underwater either. And yes, it's wonderful, but it's very challenging. What I find with this job, and I'm going to be completely honest with you, is that sometimes there's a sensory overload. You're listening to 2 different radios, sometimes 3 at the one time. You're trying to compute 3 different voices. You're trying to talk, you're trying to look, you're trying to smell. You're also trying to listen to the ambient sounds. And sometimes it all just comes out blah, 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 as you've heard us all do many times. It's quite a sensory overload, this job. It can be stressful. You're trying to make sure you don't drive over trees like leadwoods that are protected. You're trying to make sure that you're not disturbing the animal. You're trying to make sure that you're giving educational content to the viewers. So it can be very stressful, and I'm not going to pretend this morning was fun. It was not. I'm still not fully dry. But of course, I do love being out in nature. I'm not someone that thrives very well in the cities. I get quite claustrophobic. So in answer to your question, Moonshine, yes, it's absolutely wonderful being a game guide. But it has its moments, as with any job, I'm sure. I got a flat tire last night in the pitch black. Susan from Virginia, USA. Good to hear from you. You're saying it's a pleasure to watch WildEarth. It's a pleasure to have you here. Sometimes we get it wrong, we get discombobulated, we make mistakes, we make wrong choices, we punish ourselves. I should have went this way, why did I say that? But you know, it's a pleasure to have you all on board, really. It really is. We do this for you, and it's not supposed to be perfect. You're supposed to feel like you're on the back of our vehicle, having this experience right in front of your eyes. Nothing is edited. Our bloopers are there for all of you to see. Now, this is a tree that we normally see the agama, this jackalberry, and I would imagine, being a reptile, the agama may be out. Let's have a look at the tree, Johan. If I was a reptile, I would be out. I can't see anything, though. The female blends in, of course. The male stands out. It's a beautiful jackalberry right on the embankment of the Mulwati. I don't see him. Or her. So yes, I got a flat tire last night, just as game drive ended in the pitch black. Simon and I hardly had any light, and we had to change the tire. It was not fun. The only light that we had was a small torch, and all the insects decided, we must fly into this light and disturb Lauren and Simon from changing their tire. So moments like that, yes, can be very frustrating. Nope, sadly, I don't see any agama. Can you hear all the birds? All the birds are very, very happy that the rain has stopped. I'm sure you can hear that. So let's go on the Twin Dams wall and see if we can see any activity in the dam. Not that I imagine many species will need to drink water. So I am going to put my searching goggles on and try to find you all some animals, but I believe Phinda has already done that for you.
Afternoon, everybody. We've come across 3 male giraffe who are all just standing in the heat and the wind, not doing very much. One's getting annoyed by a oxpecker, as you can see. Must be quite frustrating having things pecking parasites out of your eyes. Welcome to andBeyond Phinda. I'm Kim, and behind the camera we've got Owen, and behind us we've got these 3 giraffes that we've just been observing. You can see that they've kind of got the middle one especially has got his head up, seems to be sniffing the breeze. They've all got their ears to attention. It's quite windy here today, so they're quite alert. The 2 on the right, 2 on the left aren't even chewing cud. They're actually just observing us or something else. One looks like he's looking behind us, and the other looking right at us. The one on the right-hand side looks rather unbothered by anything, except for that oxpecker that was pecking at its eye. Chewing on his cud ball. The reason that we can tell that these are all male giraffes is just because of the thickness of their horns. You can see that the one on the far right has got tufts of fur on the top, so we can assume that he's quite a bit younger than the other 2 who have got bald patches on the top of their horns, which is due to fighting with other males. So the one on the right's probably not had much fighting experience as of yet. But they're all staring at us, looking to be as interested in us as we are in them. Actually, that depends what they are defending themselves against. So if it were another giraffe, they would use their horns, swing or fling their necks against one another's rib cages, trying to do quite a bit of damage to their flanks and to each other's necks. But if it were against a predator like a lion, then they have a kick that they would use in defense there. If you imagine a lion trying to catch a giraffe, it would be possibly coming from the back, like running after it, trying to take it down, latch onto its rump, and a giraffe's kick would obviously be quite a good defense in that situation. I think they usually wouldn't give us this much attention, but because of the wind, they're just double checking. This one left looking at us is looking at us as if he's never seen a vehicle in his life before, which I'm sure is not the case. But I'm sure they feel the same as us in one thing. This wind is very welcome in this heat. Casey, the horns are as hard as bone. That is they're made of. They're made of bone. So if you were to come across a giraffe skull, it would look pretty much like how you can see it is now, just with those horns and the rest of the skull is the whole part of the skull. So yeah, as hard as bone is my answer, if you know how hard bone is. Lana, I have to say that I've not heard giraffes making any kind of noises except for some maybe like umphing noises when they are fighting with one another. And that's probably getting the breath knocked out of them a little bit. But apart from that, I haven't heard giraffe make any noises. I'll have to find out for you if any of my colleagues have heard giraffes making noises. But otherwise, I think that they are quite silent animals. We were making our way towards a watering hole when we came across these giraffes, so I think we are going to continue to do that. But for now, we'll send you across to JP.
Hi, welcome back to Tswalu. Myself and Davi just located in a wildebeest kill. Although this kill is several days or possibly even closer to a week and a half old already, we still find a number of interesting things around this kill. So before we're going to start talking about that, I just want to point out that the kill has been dragged underneath a camelthorn tree. And one of the reasons why they most likely did this is to get into the shade. But secondly, we also find that lions will also quite often drag a carcass directly underneath vegetation to prevent species such as vultures from spotting them and potentially giving away their position and attracting other hyenas, jackals, and other lions that can potentially come and rob them from that prey. So what we can also see at the moment, that it's mostly everything has been eaten. We've also looked around the area to see if there was any fresh signs of hyena, especially species like brown hyena loves coming feeding on old carcasses like this. However, nothing was present. But what we did find is, if you look a little bit closer, is a number of carrion beetles. And these beetles will specifically feed on old carcasses and assist with the recycling of this dead animal. Then right over here, we've also got a fly that's sitting on the carcass over here. And quite often we get a number of different fly species that will come and feed and lay their eggs on a carcass. And it's also been recorded that in cases where carcasses has been excluded from any other predators, that species like flies can actually, within a 7-day period, break down a whole carcass and leave only bone and skin remaining. So most of the insects that we've so far noticed around this carcass is always associated with dead animals. McConnell has just asked how long does carcasses smell for, and what we generally find with carcasses, it depends on temperature and how much moisture is remaining in it, and sometimes up to a week that we can to a week and a half that it can smell. And if that carcass becomes wet again, then we'll immediately notice that that smell becomes prevalent again. And most of the times when we actually detect these smells is in the early morning when the air is still cool and stable and it's hanging fairly low. However, when it's in the heat of the day, we don't often smell the carcasses so easily because the warm air keeps the smell from keeps this air from rising, continuously rising, and therefore preventing us from smelling that carcass. Got a cool shot on the hoof. So Darby has just pointed out the hoof over here, and what we would like to point out that we refer to most of the antelope, giraffe as even-toed ungulates, and you can see 1, 2, and then over here a small little remnant of a false hoof as well. So that means that these animals have either 2 or 4 toes, and in this case, with the even-toed ungulates, we can even divide them further into those that have a single large stomach, and in the case of a wildebeest species which has 4 stomach chambers, which is quite a complex stomach chamber which allows for the breakdown of food and for the extraction of the maximum nutrients. So,
tiny little grasshopper on the tail here.
If you don't mind, just to pan for us there on that butterfly. So if we look on the nose of the wildebeest, there's an African monarch butterfly that's resting over there. So far, with the exception of a grasshopper that's been perched up on the head, that's the only 2 insects that's not associated with carcasses. So most likely it's not sure why they're sitting on the carcass. You can just see that it's opening and closing the wing.
So it's not just the reptiles that are enjoying the sun. Look at the resident fish eagle. He looks huge from here. And I say he, that's rather naughty because we have no idea. The monogamous pair stay quite tight together around Chitwa. We came to Chitwa Dam. So I really have no idea if that's the male or the female. But he or she looks huge. Now, it's not entirely impossible for birds to fly when they're wet, but if it's been a torrential downpour and they're completely soaking right through, it's rather challenging. They've got to really sort of get all that water off their feathers. Aerodynamics is not easy. Flight is not easy. And therefore, they don't want anything weighing them down. Now, to be honest, the flight of a bird is really not that dissimilar to an aeroplane in flight, really. The sort of aerodynamic forces that are really sustaining the flight, be it bird, be it aircraft, are lift and drag. They're the 2 main sort of forces at play, really, in both of these things. And of course, an aircraft sustains himself with an engine, whereas the birds, they flap their wings. Oh, off we go. Nicely done, Johan.
At the moment, we on the eastern section of Tswalu, and we're heading to a small little dam that's called Prrivate. However, on our way, since we've left our wildebeest carcass, we haven't managed to find anything else. At the same time, we're also watching the storm growing and coming in from the west as well as from the north. So our weather is also quite rapidly changing, and the atmospheric pressure is cooling down. So if we don't get caught by rain, we actually might start seeing more and more animals becoming active slightly earlier than we anticipated with this much cooler weather. But from here, we're going to move on and make our way towards a dam, take a slow drive, and as soon as we find something interesting, we can talk about. Okay. April has just asked, what is my favorite thing about being a guide? Well, April, firstly, I'm passionate about wildlife, and secondly, I'm passionate about creating unique experiences which guests can enjoy. And there's nothing more rewarding than to make someone's holiday extraordinary. And I would say that is what pretty much sums up that whole question. At the moment, while we stopped over here to answer April's question, we also found one of the porcupine quills that was lying in the road. So if you can look at this, the coloration of these quills, actually modified hairs that are colored black and white, which is actually a universal warning color that actually will warn predators that this animal can potentially harm themselves. So generally when a porcupine becomes upset with a predator that it does come close by to it, it might potentially stump its feet, it might start rattling its quills, and then start raising these, and then deliberately turn around and then push its back towards the threat. In most cases, this actually works quite well, but in certain cases, we also find that certain individual animals have actually learned from their parents to specifically focus on difficult animals, such as a porcupine. So every now and then we do see leopard, and we do see specific individual lions that specifically target dangerous animals such as a porcupine. So coming back to this warning colors, we also find a number of other species that has warning colors, as the African monarch butterfly that we saw earlier. So there are combinations of orange, white, black, and also reds quite often will tell us that that animal is either toxic or potentially dangerous to deal with. In the case of the African monarch, it's actually a potentially toxic animal, and in its larval stage, it will feed mostly on milkweeds, and then that toxins from the plant will be carried over towards the adult butterfly, making it toxic and distasteful. There's also a number of interesting studies that has been done in the past on species like butterflies that are toxic, and we often find that they actually have very similar looking non-toxic butterflies that mimic their patterns. And what they've noticed in laboratories where they feed these non-toxic butterflies to birds that have never been exposed to them, they will gladly eat on them. And the moment that they actually provide them with one of the toxic species of butterfly, they will never go back to feeding on one of the non-toxic species that resembles the African monarch, for example. We're going to slowly head off on towards Prrivate Dam, and in the meanwhile, we're handing over to Lauren and Djuma.
Now, I've not encountered any animals yet, but I went and purchased this fantastic book that I've been telling you about. I've read about it online, but I actually purchased it. The Hidden Life of Trees by Peter Wolleben. Yes, probably not going to do so well in the name. He's German. But I have mentioned this before, but I'm actually sort of reading into the sort of general understanding of trees that's happening at the moment. There's a great movement, lots of scientific studies into, and I'm just going to say this, how trees are in fact more alert, social, sophisticated, and even more intelligent than we thought. Now, the reason I'm mentioning now this again is we spoke about the termite the other night is functioning as one organism, the entire colony in the mound functioning as one organism. What if every single species of trees here, we've got knobthorn, we've got apple leaf, we've got cluster leaf, we've got marullas, we've got combretums of all sorts, we've got everything here. What if they're actually not just functioning as a single tree, a single species? What if they're actually a community? What if they're talking to one another, constantly communicating with one another and helping one another? Because there's no point in just being a single, lonely tree. Could you survive and thrive? Possibly not. So we always think of trees as just loners, disconnected loners, myself included. Even when we look at a tree, we think of, there's a marula, and this is some facts about the marula, and this is how to identify a marula. But what if it's not just a marula? What if it's part of a much larger organism? What if it's something much, much bigger? And there's actually a lot of evidence now that confirms exactly that. So they're saying that trees of the same species, so let's just say all the marullas, are communal, and they'll form alliances with other species. So it's not like the animals that we talk about, leopards versus lions. What if they're all in this bigger picture together? And there's a fantastic example of a stump. I can't actually remember what species it was. I have a funny feeling it was a beech tree. And it had been felled a very, very long time ago, about 500 years ago. And Peter Wolleben himself actually realized that it's not a dead stump, it's green. And green can only mean one thing, chlorophyll. And chlorophyll is what's doing all the photosynthesizing in the leaves, keeping the tree alive, pumping it with sugar and all the necessary nutrients and water that it requires. So how come there's chlorophyll? How come this stump is alive if it's been felled over 500 years ago? Why is it not a dead stump? And basically, all the other surrounding beaches underneath the ground, the part that we can't see, were pumping it full of sugars. It was getting water from the ground, the soil, but the surrounding beaches were actually pumping it through a network, providing it with sugar and keeping it alive. And they likened it to elephants. They're almost reluctant to abandon their dead, especially when it's a big matriarch. So what if there's a matriarchal tree? What if there's a mother tree that they don't want to abandon? And even though it's a stump and it's not growing, they're keeping it alive. Isn't that absolutely fascinating? That's incredible. And of course, the trees are the foundation of any forest, and because they don't move and they're maybe not as exciting as a lion or a leopard, we do tend to forget about them sometimes, myself included. But underground, what they're now calling in science, WWW, the wood wide web, not the World Wide Web, the Wood Wide Web. All these sort of roots underground are connected to one another, and they don't necessarily need to touch one another because there's actually a fungal network at play here, symbiosis. A very fine network that's connecting all the trees, and they believe that they can communicate this way, they can send signals this way. Danger up ahead. There's a ginormous elephant trying to push me over, guys, be careful, he could be coming your way. Okay, they probably don't communicate quite like that. But it's a world of infinite biological pathways that we are completely oblivious to. And it connects all the trees, it allows them to communicate, and it allows the forest to behave almost as if it's a single organism. Some papers, and I know it's a little bit controversial, but some papers are likening it to sort of intelligence. It's an intelligence that we definitely don't understand, and the real action is taking place underground, so we can't see it. So if they're sharing water and nutrients underground, helping keep one another alive, then there must be so much more going on down there that we really, really don't understand. Now, we know that trees can release chemicals, distress signals. Acacias, for example, will release ethylene gas if it's been munched on by a giraffe, and the gas will pass with the wind to the other trees, which the other trees can recognize and understand. Threat, giraffe approaching, pump tannins into the leaves, pump. And tannins are very, well, they're not tasty at all, they're not palatable, they're very bitter. So if a giraffe comes along and sees that this delicious acacia that it was hoping to eat has now got lots of tannin in the leaves, ugh. Now, it won't kill a giraffe, but for the likes of kudu, too much tannin can actually kill kudus. It's not something you want to be consuming. Now, the giraffes have cottoned on to this on the sort of evolutionary arms race between organisms. However, that's a tree's way of communicating, and that's at least through the leaves. It's not just giraffes. You get caterpillars, you get insects, all sorts of organisms that do damage to trees, not just the bark, but also the leaves. Isn't that just fascinating? Now, I'm only a chapter or two into this book, but I'm going to keep sharing all the wonderful insights with you. But for now, we're going to send you across to Andrew for a wonderful silence segment.
Welcome back to andBeyond Pin Day, everybody. We have found a cheetah. Don't know if you can see her through the leaves there. Her camouflage is doing its job through the dappled light on those spots, makes her quite tough to see. It's a very, very hot day, so I think she's just looking for some shade. And she's found it in there. Well, she was actually sitting out in the open and decided to get up and go just as we were about to come live to you guys. She's a bit camera shy, I think. And hopefully she does get out of there. We can show you her in all of her glory, because she is a very beautiful cheetah. It's very elegant and slender, as most cheetah are, but this one for some reason is more so. She's quite big for a female. You'll see her tail flicking irritably at whatever flies are probably getting at her. Oh, there we go. Just getting up. Yeah, she does have beautiful eyes. It's the one thing that we can see through. Okay, it looks like she's gone and lay down on the other side of the thicket. So I'm going to move us around, maybe get another shot of those beautiful eyes. Oh gosh, sometimes the vehicle doesn't like to start. There we go. Behind her leaves a bit. I think that she was being around her. It's more common for cheetah to be out in the open, as I'm sure most of you know. Hiding in a thick bush is more leopard behavior. Well, she was obviously feeling a little bit uncomfortable hidden in that bush and decided to come out into the open. I think I'm going to reposition just another time because she is still behind those
side thing. It's like, oh, hello, you're with us. We are just admiring this brown snake eagle, actually talking about the let me try that again. Talking about the flamingos from yesterday. Some people refused to believe it. They said, it's probably a spoonbill, until they actually saw it really was two greater flamingos. It's such a spectacular sight that we really don't see here in the Sabi sands. I haven't seen any flamingos in the 2.5 years that I've been here. It was so fabulous, but we're not looking at a flamingo, are we? We are looking at a brown snake eagle. I won't go into the description of how we know that, because I'm sure most of you know that yourself. But when you're sort of approaching a bird of prey from a distance and all you can see is the outline, you've really got to get those key features pinpointed down before you can confirm what you're looking at. A lot of the raptors really do look similar out here. Luckily, the brown snake eagle with its naked little leggies are actually quite obvious. It looks rather bizarre when you look at those legs and you think, oh. And off we go into the dark-looking clouds that I'm a little bit worried about because, well, I took my rain roof off. Now, there's actually 83 species of raptors in South Africa. 83. Raptor comes from rapier, which means to seize, to grab. And in the English language, we've actually taken that sort of Latin word, rapier, and we've used it in a lot of our modern day English. And that tells you straight away their hunting strategy. Raptors hunt by grabbing with their talons, seizing, to pull up. They don't use their beak. The beak comes later. That sharp sort of slicing beak comes when they want to tear the flesh. But they seize their prey first using those talons. And that's exactly where the word raptor comes from. There's a little beetle. Trying not to run over all the insects here. Okay, so I'm going to continue looking for my spots, but we're going to send you over to some spots with Kim.
Okay, welcome back. Sorry about that. We lost you for a second. I think I was in the middle of answering a question about how long this cheetah will have her collar on. And I was saying that she is a new member. I don't know where I lost you, so I'll just start from the beginning. But she's quite a new member to the cheetah population on Phinda. And just when she settles into her habitat is when we'll take the collar off. Oh, God. So she's monitored still, obviously having the collar on. They'll still come and check up on her, make sure she's feeding all right, make sure she's comfortable, and yeah, and when they feel that she is comfortable enough, then they will take off her collar. Hammond, yes, I think it is relatively easy for cheetah to adapt to new environments. They have very strong instinct with hunting and habitat, so it would just be a case of learning the lay of the land. But apart from that, all their hunting skills are enough that they can survive in different habitats, even if it's slightly unfamiliar. They just kind of get on with it. The strongest instinct is obviously survival, so whatever they need to survive, they'll just get on with it, I suppose. They won't be getting homesick or anything like people would. Can you mute? I can't. I'm quite glad that she's decided to stay out of her. So she is alone because that is just the way of cheetah. Cheetah females will often be found solitary unless they're obviously mating or unless they have a litter of cubs. But yeah, female cheetah will always be alone. Male cheetah, on the other hand, if there are more males in a litter than just one, then they'll stay together for life. Obviously, habitat depending, or survival depending, so they'll form a coalition or a brotherhood. So that's when you'll see a group of adult cheetah together, is when it's a group of brothers. Brianna, she needs the collar so that we can just make sure that she is settling into her new home okay. We just want to make sure that she's finding her way around okay. She's not under any threat. She's feeding all right. I know we chatted earlier about how long it takes them to get used to their new homes. I can't give you an exact time frame, but I think it's just important to make sure that she doesn't try and run away to maybe get back to where she came from, just out of confusion. But before they do let them out into the greater part of the reserve, they are in what we call a boma, which is like a little enclosure. Well, not little, it's big enough for them to move around and run around in, but it's just so that they can get used to the smells and sounds of their new environment, so that when they're released eventually, it's not such a big surprise. Oh yeah, it looks like she's spotted something down behind us. I can't see anything behind us, but obviously cheetah's eyesight is superior to ours. See now how she's got her eyes trained on whatever it is that she's spotted, but her ears are back listening to whatever's happening behind her. I think we've chatted before about cheetah and how they are kind of at the bottom of the food chain when it comes to the predators. So even though she wants to focus on what might be her next meal, she needs to always be alert of what might be around her apart from that prey species, because if there is a lion or a leopard around and she loses focus on the rest of her surroundings, then that could be a fatal mistake to make. So that's a very good question. Especially on Phinda, we move cheetah around relatively often, and the reason for that is to keep the genetic diversity. With the with the cheetah population as a whole, all wild cheetah, there's quite a bottleneck in genetic diversity because they were so close to extinction at one point. And through human intervention, we've been able to kind of bring them back from the brink of extinction. But because the genetics have kind of dwindled somewhat, it's very important that we manage and swap them around to keep that genetic diversity as diverse and as varied as possible. So that is why she was relocated. She was brought here from somewhere else. I'm not sure of the exact ins and outs of the swapping and relocating, but it's possible that we will have actually swapped one of our females with this one to that other reserve, so that they then can share our genetics that we've got here, and then we can take some of theirs. We also have recently got 2 male cheetahs onto the reserve, and we swapped out another 2 males who were the father of probably most of the offspring that are on Phinda at the moment. They were fairly dominant. They took up their territory, took up a large portion of Phinda, and as I say, as a result of that, most of the offspring are from them. So you can imagine when those young grow older, they need to have some new genetics to diversify it a bit. That's a very good question, and it also does just kind of give you a bit of an idea of what goes into looking after these populations that, well, because of humans have got so close to extinction, but now there's a lot of work going into fixing our mistakes. But yeah, it kind of just shows that you can't just shove a whole lot of animals into a fenced area and let them be. It doesn't quite work like that. There's a very fine balance that needs to be maintained. And nature is awesome, and it can maintain that balance pretty well by itself if it is given the space. But in a fenced reserve, it needs a bit of help to just make sure everything has a fair chance. All right, I think that we may move on from this female. I think we'll leave her here in her shade, but for now we'll send you across to Eric and Ngala.
Good afternoon, everybody, and a very, very warm and sunny welcome to andBeyond and Ngala. It wasn't like this an hour ago. We had got a whole heap of rain, and that's why we've come past this this pan that was completely dry at the beginning of the morning, and it is now full, which is awesome. So we've received about 42 mils of rain within the last 12 hours. My name is Eric, and behind camera is BK, as always. And because we've had so much rain, we won't be able to go off-road, unfortunately, especially within an area like this. And so, at least for the beginning part of the game drive, we're going to spend a lot of time driving around doing exactly this, looking at all of the little spots that were previously dry to see how much water there is. There's a tributary to the Timbavati River up ahead that often flows when we get this amount of rain. So we are on our way there to go and check it out. So we're quite excited to see what this rain has brought us. If you've been watching in the last couple of days, I've come past this spot in particular to look for a bird called a lesser moorhen. And we're basically now on the opposite side. So there's two roads that run parallel to one another. We've been viewing the pan from the other side. And like I mentioned, this pan was dry recently, and it's now wet. So I was hoping that with this rain, potentially this lesser moorhen would be moving around this marshy area. This is also one of the spots that we saw the rufous-bellied heron for the very first time. So it'll be nice to see if it might be around still. Otherwise, there's a few rangers that have gone down to go look for those two lions we had in the riverbed this morning. And if they are still in the riverbed, they'll be viewable. We'll be able to drive if the riverbed is nice and wet. But otherwise, around this pan, I haven't seen a single bird yet. And maybe it's still a bit early. I mean, it's literally just filled up. The biggest downpour came at about 3:45 and filled this all up. Lanag, the lighting is very beautiful, and I'm actually going to drive forward and see if I can show you what the clouds look like. It is a typical low-felt day, and there's these beautiful cumulus clouds, so they look like big balls of cotton candy, and the sun is catching them really nicely. So I'll drive forward. There is an open spot here that we can just stop and scan and look at some of the clouds that brought all of this rain. I'm sure you can just start to see them now. The biggest ones are more to the right, and I think those were the ones that made us so wet. I'll move forward and then just angle the vehicle. BK's already showing you with his fine videographer skills. Okay, that's the biggest one. Through that gap there. Don't know if it's going to do it too much justice. So I'm pretty sure that was one of the clouds through there that brought all of that rain. And it looks like it might be heading south. So it actually could be going towards Djuma.
Not quite flamingos, but not too far off. We have the yellow-billed storks, a monogamous pair found at Bufosuk Dam. Now, they seem to have taken up residence here. which I am more than happy about. I think these birds are absolutely fabulous. Just that striking yellow against the red and in the white body. Although it is tinged pink during breeding season, and they are in their breeding season right now, so I'm not sure if it's entirely visible, but this individual we're looking at is slightly tinged pink on its wing, but I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it. Not bright pink, but there's a pink tone there, and that's only during breeding season. They're almost like a cross between a pelican, a saddled bill, and a flamingo all together, and you end up with this species. Now, during the onset of breeding as well, that skin, the naked skin around their eyes, becomes bright, bright red. It's not always extremely bright, and of course it's very bright right now, so we can tell that they're definitely in their breeding season. It's so lovely just to sit and watch all the birds around the waterhole. Now, just to update you, my plan of checking the hyena dens was a great plan in theory, but I didn't think it through. And in Vubu Den, Gallagher Shortcut Den, and Aubrey's Den are all off-road. So I'm not going to be able to check them today, sadly, but I shall proceed with my mission tomorrow. They don't want to off-road when it's slushy and mushy like this. So we'll change our plan. So I think I'm going to head round to the other side and see what beautiful birds we can find. But for now, I believe Andrew is going to give you a lovely silent segment with a giraffe.
Live.
WildEarth is launching our brand new Explorer program with an opportunity to win a very special WildEarth expedition. The lucky winner will get a behind-the-scenes WildEarth experience at the magnificent and beyond Ngala Tainted Safari Camp. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend with a chance to sleep out in the unique Ngala treehouse. Become a WildEarth Explorer and stand a chance to win this and many other prizes. Terms and conditions apply.
Oh, it's going to be in trouble now. Oh, this is unbelievable stuff. Here comes a hippo in too. Go, Impala. There's a hippo coming in. I can't believe what we're seeing here. This is what we normally see in East Africa. It's all over. Hippo leaping at the crocodile now. Everything's gone underwater.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily. An ever-increasing part of the global population is losing its connection with nature. WildEarth is here to reduce people's stress and anxiety, allowing you to escape into nature even just for a few hours a day. However, WildEarth is expensive to run, and we need help from you to keep this ship going. WildEarth Explorers gives you the opportunity to be part of a program that supports the sharing of nature with the world.
Hi, I'm Kyle, and I come to you live every day here from Tswalu Kalahari in South Africa. My favorite bird has to be the social weaver. The enormous nest that they create, their survival tactics to inhabit these harsh and unforgiving environments, and as well as their complex social arrangements is truly remarkable. And the interconnectedness with the ecosystem shows us that we are too.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth.
Apologies about Tswalu. I'm sure they'll be back with us very shortly. And luckily, we have just encountered a bull elephant. On his own, probably having the best day. Now, elephants will really, really relish the rain, having such thick, dry skin on a hot summer's day. They get ticks. A lot of people think elephants don't get ticks. They absolutely do. You'll find them on the softer parts of an elephant's skin. So normally on the ears or the sort of armpits, if you like. I'm not entirely sure. That's a correct phrase for an elephant, but the armpits and the genitalia. Yes, the softer parts of skin, you will see ticks on elephants. And of course, they don't have hands, they can't just pull them out. They don't allow oxpeckers. You'll find them rubbing themselves up against termite mounds and trees. But really, when that rain comes, it must feel so incredible. Now, ticks are obviously ectoparasites. They don't go inside the organism. Yes, part of their feeding appendages do, but they're ecto. They remain on the outside. And the sort of general consensus is that ticks you'll only find them on warm-blooded animals. But that's not the case. You get ticks on reptiles as well. You get the South African tortoise tick. It's one of the famous ones. And you get other specialized ticks that will just go for particular species of reptiles.
Okay, welcome to andBeyond Phinda again, guys. Sorry that you lost Djuma there. We are just driving around of life that you don't have to cut away from us, because there's a beautiful big grassland ahead of us with loads of zebra and wildebeest and impala. Ta-da! What a scene. You can see this grass looks lovely and lush and green compared to most of the grass that we drive past. And that's just because of it being in a low-lying area. It's probably got a bit of a higher water table than the higher areas, and therefore just the stores a bit more, or the water just kind of stays here a bit better than in other areas. You can see all the animals enjoying it quite a bit. Quite a beautiful scene actually this afternoon here. Very peaceful. It's also a giraffe. Oh, sometimes it really is just nice though, sitting listening to the birds, letting this wind cool us down. It's been an unbelievably hot day here. Got a purple-crested turako calling. That's an interesting question. Grassland animals to observe. I do find that each time I stop with a plains game animal, I kind of find new things that I enjoy about them. On Phinda, we've got so many zebra and wildebeest and impala. We often just drive on past them, but when you do just stop to and give them a bit of your time, you always reminded of how beautiful they are. But I think I'd have to say favorite would probably be a zebra. I don't know, they're just really cool. Don't really have many more reasons than that. Yeah, they've got pretty interesting herd dynamics. They can be quite loving of one another, which is always nice to watch. We're often doing allo grooming one another for bonding. And their foals are super cute. They've got that funky hairstyle where their mane seems to be actually longer than the adults and often a bit floppy, which they eventually grow out of, but it's, yeah, they're just really cool animals, cool looking animals. You can see everyone's very calm here. Most of the animals have their heads down, just focused on eating. I think it's quite sheltered down there. The wind isn't very strong anymore, as it was earlier when we were watching the giraffe. And they are in an open area, so they can see quite far around themselves, so they feel relatively confident that they should be able to see anything coming, any threat coming before it's too late. Crystal, that is correct. They do have glands in their hooves. They also have glands on their face called preorbital glands. And they've also got between the toes of their hooves. And you can often find, if you find a patch of dirt where there's a lot of wildebeest dung, you can often find scrape marks kind of like two lines in the sand next to one another, and that it's the scraping of the wildebeest's hooves. And you can also see kind of flattened, scuffed areas where they've actually shoved their faces into the ground as well. And the reason for that is that they are trying to spread the scent that is secreted by those glands. That's their own scent, and it's what they use to mark their territory. So they've got that special little patch of dirt that they make smell very much like themselves, with dung and with those glands. And that is how they tell females, the herds coming through the area, that there's a strapping male in the area who would very much like to spread his genetics if they'll have him. And it'll also send a message to any other male wildebeest who may be trying to find or establish their own territory in the area. It'll tell them that that area is already taken and they need to move on, find somewhere else. These are blue wildebeest, Ryan. Black wildebeest we do not get here. They look slightly different. I shall show you in the book. I'm just going to try to get to it. Hum. Okay, so we are sitting over here with the blue wildebeest, which I shall show you first. There we go, the blue wildebeest. And then we have got the black. So you can see that the shape of the horns is rather different. They kind of dip quite low over the eyes compared to the blue. They've got that white in the mane and in the tail. And they're a slightly different shape in face and in body. Just to go back, just to reiterate, see how the horns of the blue are a little bit more kind of straight out as opposed to sloping down like the black. So a few differences, but yeah, what we're looking at here are the blue wildebeest. Oh, there's two blue wildebeest fighting over there. See, are they right down on their knees? The reason they go down like that is to protect their necks from one another, to protect their necks from one another's horns. So if you can imagine, if they were upstanding and one got the other under the neck, they've got very soft skin and flesh under their neck, that kind of dewlappy fold of skin. You can imagine a hooked horn like the wildebeests could do some serious damage to that soft skin under the neck. So quite an interesting way to fight, because you can imagine there's not much power that they can get from being down on the ground. There's a third one looks like he's coming to join in. Don't know how that's going to work. Okay, those two look like they are not fighting very viciously. They already have made amends. Maybe that one came and told them off and told them to stop fooling around, but they look like they're all right. But we are going to send you across to Tswalu. Apparently they have something pretty exciting for you.
I'm glad we stayed at. Okay. So for the last half an hour, myself and Davi has been sitting in Prrivate waterhole. At one point, we actually started looking at tracks because we couldn't find anything else at that moment. And just as we thought that we weren't going to find anything else, we started hearing the audio and the squabble of lions in the distance. We immediately jumped into the vehicle, and we are really so happy to see what we have over here. Lioness and several cubs, and then there's a sub-adult that's lying a little bit further away, and another 2 lions just lying behind the bush right over here. We're not quite sure what they caught, and what we do find quite often is that when it comes to feeding, that the most dominant animals will take the biggest share of the food. In this case, they've managed to tear it into smaller pieces, and 1 or 2 of the individuals has dragged smaller little parts of food away from the rest of the group. So although lions do hunt as a group, we don't often see that they share equally. So the strongest and the most dominant individuals is the ones that are going to get the most food. In some cases, we even find lionesses that if there's an insufficient amount of food, that they will actually even neglect their cubs to make sure that they at least survive, and the cubs will starve eventually. Another feature that we often find with lions is quite often is that if there is males around in the area, that the males will actually dominate the carcass. In some views, it's said that the males will then protect the carcass and the females will feed on the remains, because the presence of a single male generally will be able to deter a number of hyenas coming from there. Whereas it's only females, the statistics claim that for every lioness that there is, for every 4 hyenas that there is, 1 lioness will be able to stand their ground against those 4. But in this case, I'm really happy that there's no other predators that has made their way over here, and neither has the male come in to dominate this kill, which provides the younger cubs all a fair opportunity of having something to feed on. So the lioness is closest to us at the moment. She's busy cleaning herself. And one of the features that you will find if you're ever fortunate enough to feel the tongue of a lion, it's almost like sandpaper, and it just removes the hair that's loose as well as the blood that was on the paws, so that they can clean themselves and prevent any further bacterial infections or growths starting to form. So most likely what we will find is that these lions, once they've completed feeding on this remains of the animal that they have killed, which we're still not 100% sure what it is as it's so small, will start moving towards the water. So generally they need quite a large amount of water after a protein-rich meal to assist with the digestion of the food. Some of the younger cubs moving off to one of the other lions, trying to see if they can go and scavenge a meal there. She just chased them away. They're all making their way back right over towards us.
Question from Jojo. How old are the cubs?
Jojo, if I have to take a guess on the age of how old these cubs are, I would say there's some of them that's between 2 and 4 months of age that's in the group. So normally here from 2 months of age, they will still be drinking milk, but they can start eating solids as well. Also, if we look at the young little cub that's just moving in front of us, you'll notice that there's a lot of spots on the legs, and those little spots will eventually disappear as they become older. However, some individuals actually retain some of the spots underneath the belly. So little cubs are often left alone while they're feeding or while the parents is out hunting, and therefore they had to remain hidden. And those spots combined with sunlight coming through thick vegetation creates a dappled effect which hides them quite well. Hi Joanne, just on your question with regards to at which age they can start eating meat, quite often as young as from 2 to 3 months that they will start feeding solids. So one of the features that we can see with these tiny little cubs is the black markings behind the ears. And you'll also notice that with the adults. And these actually act as following mechanisms when the cubs need to follow the mother towards a meal opportunity. But it's also so that the female can keep contact with what they are doing. And with the adults, it also plays a very important role when it comes to hunting, that they can maintain group cohesion while they're silently busy stalking towards a potential prey item. We also often find that it can indicate mood as well. And often when we do stop at a sighting where we do have lions, if they start turning their ears towards us and they show the black ends of the ears, as well if it's accompanied by snarling quite often, we know that we have to actually step a little bit back, and then we know that we can provide them with a little bit of more personal space to make them feel at ease. So the lions that we have over here, they are very comfortable with vehicles, and over several generations they've actually become used to the vehicle. And that's when the females will start normally introducing the cubs towards vehicles, and eventually those cubs, as long as they're viewed in a sensitive manner, will become used to the vehicles as well. April, I fully agree with you. They're in incredibly good condition at the moment, which means that they're having a sufficient amount of meals and that mom is providing very well for them. Even the female herself is in an incredibly good condition. So normally when we do look at lions, we can normally look at the end of the hips. We can also look at the belly. There's a number of different things that we can use to determine their condition. Hi, Florida Mom. I have not noticed that the tooth is broken at the angle of where I'm sitting, but quite often they do break their teeth. And as the lionesses becomes progressively older, their teeth also worns down. And eventually, from the age of roughly 12 and onwards, they can potentially not use their teeth effectively anymore when it comes to feeding. And those lionesses will quite often then from there starve from hunger. How beautiful is it watching those little ones playing with the mother, and the mother busy grooming them there as well. So quite often when animals are grooming one another, they do it for the purpose of cleaning one another, but also to remove parasites, clean. But what they do also find is that it reduces social tension amongst group animals and creates friendly bonds between the individuals within a group. Are there any, just to answer your question with regards if a lioness will kill her own cubs, it has been recorded in the past where lionesses have actually eaten their own cubs. It's also been found in leopards. And then we've also seen quite often what happened is where either lionesses and leopard will actually abandon their cubs if they don't feel that they are physically fit enough to be able to take care of their own young. We're going to still stay a little bit longer with Pride and the hope that they're going to start moving to the water very soon. And meanwhile, we're going to pass over to Lauren, who's going to entertain you with some elephants.
Just trying to reposition for you to get a better view. Can you get them from here, Johan? Some elephants in the drainage. Now, they're moving very fast. I don't think we'll be able to stick with them for too long. And, of course, we're not allowed to off-road. So I think we actually forgot to mention to you all, but the reason Andrew is doing silent segments is we had a bit of a technological meltdown with one of the mic packs. So, unfortunately, he has got a voice, I promise. He's just not able to speak to all of you due to the mic pack issue, but we're working on it. Superhero Marcel is going to get it sorted right away. Now I'm just going to leave these elephants. We've been with them for quite a while now, and I really don't think we're getting any better a visual. And we've looped all the way around back to the hyena den. We had Ribbon earlier, but she was walking very, very fast. When hyenas are on a mission, there's no way to keep up with them. So I know for a fact that Ribbon's not going to be at the den. But let's just check in again. It's been quite a few hours. And let's see who else is at the den. So talking of Andrew and his beautiful voice, we are going to send you over to him for another silent segment.
Wait, about 45 minutes, anything happening?
Somebody involved or between broken dam and big dam at the moment?
Hello everyone, welcome back. So we had a question earlier about how hard giraffes' horns are. And now we have found the opportunity to show you exactly how hard they are. You can see there that they're just made of bone. Got this skeleton here that's relatively well intact. I mean, most of the bones are actually all around. They haven't been dragged about too much. And the reason for that is on Phinda, unfortunately, we don't have a very large population of hyena or of scavengers of any kind, really. So that dragging around of a carcass that would usually happen in areas such as the Sabi sands and Kruger, that doesn't really happen here. So it's quite common to come across old carcass or a skeleton like this where most of the bones are actually still around. And you can see quite a lot of the leg bones, the pelvis, a bit of the spine, and there's even the whole spine actually is a bit further away over there. So yeah, you can tell that those horns are just like hard bone. They do appear a little bit more porous, though, than the rest of the skull. You can see that they've got little holes in them, so they're probably maybe not as hard as like the hardest, most dense part of bone. Maybe a little bit more, well, like I say, porous. And it's also quite interesting how you can see where, I'm actually going to hop off and show you, but you can actually see where the horns are fused onto the skull over there. Because when they are born, when giraffe are born, their horns aren't actually attached to their head. They fuse on later as they grow. They kind of fuse into position, and it's pretty cool that you can see that what would you call it, kind of attachment line where it's fused onto the skull. Having said that we don't have many predators or scavengers, though, you can see that something has gnawed away at the kind of nose of the skull. So to say that we don't have many is not to say that we don't have any. And there definitely will have been jackal and a few hyena that might have moved through this area and contributed to the state that it's in. Yeah, That's right. The ossicones, or the horns, do look quite spongy. They don't feel spongy, though, I can tell you that. But yeah, it's quite interesting. I wouldn't be able to tell you why they are more spongy than the rest of the skull, or more porous than the rest of the skull. It's an interesting question. I'm going to have to look into that. Well, I suppose I've just questioned myself, but I'll have to have a look at that and find out why that's the case. You'd think that they'd need to be very, very hard and very strong, seeing as they are a means of defense. But I suppose, yeah, they aren't quite protecting a brain, whereas the skull is protecting a brain, so they need to be nice and strong. So there are a number of things that will clean up the bones. Birds of prey, scavenging birds, so vultures, but also yellow-billed kites and a number of other birds of prey. It's not necessarily just vultures that scavenge from carcasses. Fish eagles even sometimes will come to a carcass. Battalier eagles will come. Yeah, there are a number of birds that I actually, at this exact carcass, saw a palm nut vulture, which I guess is a vulture, but it actually doesn't really look like a vulture. But yeah, that's also quite an interesting bird to have seen at a carcass. So those help quite a lot. Then also insects, flies. Obviously, there's always a lot of flies on a carcass, and they help to help in the process of disintegrating all the flesh and bits of meat that are stuck to the bones. I would say that even the sun probably plays a role in like bleaching and drying out the meat, which would then probably fall off when it's been completely dried out by the sun. It's not quite like attached to the skull anymore or to the bones, and that may then just fall away into the ground. Okay, well, Lauren has got some hyenas, some animals that may have visited this carcass, so we'll send you across to her.
An active hyena den, indeed. We've just witnessed more sort of dominance from Ribbon when it comes to Heart. Heart has a very soggy bottom right now. She's white and muddy. But you look very pretty, dear. Oh, look, this pair are drinking water. That's very sweet. I think it's Shimbulu and Corky's daughter. Shimbulu's still limping, everyone. I was a little bit worried about him, but I want to get a closer look at that swollen leg. Yeah, you see, he's still not putting it on the ground. I'm worried about this back right leg. He's not even touching it to the ground. Now, I am no doctor, but it looks quite broken to me. And Shimbulu, that's got the injury, and Gwazi's just over here in the distance. Dear. And Ribbon is there as well. That's Ribbon's throne. She likes to be right, and she doesn't like to be too near the mound. She likes to be quite far away. She's got her little patch that she sits, and she likes to observe. This is Heart's position down here. Heart likes to sit here, and she's suckling the terrible twosome. They're very strong and very dominant hearts pair. Quite aggressive. Especially considering it's a boy and a girl. I was really hoping June would be here. But you never know, she might show up. Absolutely, Crystal, 100%. We actually watched Swazi and Ndebele chasing wildebeest calf the other morning. Absolutely. And, you know, they've got this terrible reputation for scavenging, and they do scavenge, but they also hunt. I can assure you, there's no way even a clan as small as Djuma clan could survive solely on scavenging. From the number of leopards that we have here, and the sort of number of lions that generally come through Djuma, there's no way that they could sustain themselves on the scraps and that of wild dogs. Of course they hunt. We just don't really see it. The statistics say that they hunt far more often in the Mara, but I personally feel it's a little bit skewed, and it's just due to the sort of topography of the Mara. It's very flat, it's very open. If you spend time with the North Clan or the Olololo Clan or the Happy Zebra Clan, you can watch them, you can follow them, because it's really easy to keep up with them due to the landscape. Whereas here in the Sabi Sands, it's so thick and dense, it's difficult to get from A to B, especially in summer. So I'm not entirely sure the stats are a true reflection of what goes on. Yes, they scavenge 100% opportunistic. They know their place in this ecosystem. But really, Crystal, they definitely hunt. We watched Falco hunt, I'm sure it was a diker, correct me if I'm wrong, not so long ago on the dam cam. It just happened to happen right on the dam cam, and it wasn't the most exciting of hunts, but he just killed a diker right there and then. I watched one of the youngsters, one of Hart's cubs, take down a frog the other night. It was highly entertaining, but yes, from a young age they will also learn these skills. Oh, this is so precious. I'm definitely going to stay here a little bit longer, but you guys are going to pop over to Eric at Ngala.
We have got a very relaxed group of kudus pretty much browsing around the same bush, and they must be about 5 meters, maybe 8 meters away from us. And they are almost completely ignoring us, which is remarkable. I mean, usually kudus, they look at you suspiciously, and then they duck away into the bushes. And so to see this big out and about is awesome. And he's got beautiful big horns. So it looks like there's 4, maybe 5 males who are in their prime. And so maybe they're just super confident in their size, that they realize that we're not a threat. They've probably seen vehicles pretty much throughout their whole lives, and they understand that we're not here to harm them. There he goes. So they are moving away from us, but very, very slowly. They've fed on this tree. You see the 2 in the background over there. It's such a pretty area of the reserve. So we've got these beautiful tall trees around, and what makes it pretty is that there's almost no shrubs. So you've got like beautiful trees and then just this nice grass. And so these kudus are moving away from us, so I think we'll continue on with our drive and see if we can find anything. And let's go catch up to those lions in Tswalu.
think about leaping around there.
Currently, we've been still sitting with the lionesses since they've basically completed everything that there was on that very small carcass, which we still not quite sure what it is. So it seems that they want to start moving, and some of them has already started slowly moving off. And what we'll just do is we'll watch them, and then if they start moving towards the water, we're going to just loop around and see if we can catch them as they come for a drink. In the meanwhile, we're just going to reposition the vehicle, see if we can get a better view. Back, everybody is lying down. Some individuals still grooming them, and some of them still hopeful that they're going to get something to eat there. Hi, Mike. So just to answer your question about where's the father, so quite often we find that the males generally have to cover big areas to demarcate and defend territories. So they're not always in close in the same area as that the females are. So we're not 100% sure where he is even today, as nobody has been able to locate him since this morning. But what we do find is if they were close enough and the sound of the feeding was audible to that male, he would have already been here. So I assume that he's several kilometers away from the pride at the moment. What we also find is that males that do have territories within an area quite often are fathering cubs with 2 or selves even 3 different prides. So it is even possible that they might be currently with the North Pride females, while the South Pride females that we are viewing at the moment, as that you can notice no male at all that's present. Michael, I'm not 100% sure if there's a special name for the oval markings, so I would not be able to answer you on that question. It is. I've just been actually thinking about it, how fortunate we are to especially find all these young little cubs with their mothers busy feeding over here. Hi Jerome, just to answer your question of when they would hunt again, it is possibly that they might actually still go active again this evening, seeing that it's a very small meal. And on occasions, I've seen lions making a kill in the morning, and especially where it's large prides, where there's a lot of small mouths that needs to be fed, they've actually hunted again by that later that afternoon. So just while the camera is on this little cub, I just wanted to point out that you can see where the whiskers are producing tiny little markings on the face. So quite often those whisker patterns and those little dots where the whiskers come from can be used as an identification feature to identify specific individuals. Maybe to just answer your question when they will be able to start joining, it's normally from a year of 8 months to 2 years of age when they will start joining the adults for hunts. Their earlier years and when they're quite young, they're quite noisy, they're often too playful, and what often happens if they do accompany parents, they often blunder the hunts by giving away their position through their playful behavior. We're going to still spend a few more minutes with these lions and then from there on start moving on. But in the meanwhile, we're going to hand you over to Lauren and the hyenas.
Ngwazi and Shimbulu are very alert. There's quite a size difference between the two of them. They were different from birth. Ngwazi's definitely taller, the one on the right, and less fluffy. You can see he's still not putting any weight on it. It could, hyenas are extremely resilient and we always get ourselves worried and they bounce back. He could be absolutely fine. Remember Corky's seriously injured leg? That was quite substantial. She was limping badly and look at her now. I've not seen Cork since coming back. And these boys are getting big, but they'll stay in milk for up to 18 months to 2 years. Normally around 18 months. And in Ngwazi in particular, the one on the right, his spot pattern's very visible now. Very, very visible. Because he's lost that baby fluff, if you like. Just like baby fat in humans, they lose their cub fluff. Oh, Shimbulu, what did you do? What happened? But of course, the milk of hyenas is incredibly rich, so I think he'll be absolutely fine. Garden poet, sadly I'm not a doctor. I do not know what's wrong with it. I do not know if it's broken or just swollen or twisted, or I have absolutely no idea, I'm afraid, so I could not possibly answer that question. I'm hoping for a closer look at it when he comes a little bit closer to the vehicle, but I don't know. Could just be swollen, and in a week or two's fine. In a week or two's time, he'll be absolutely fine. It could be broken and ended up healing crooked. I really don't know what's wrong with it. I think you'd really need an x-ray to know exactly was wrong with it. But the milk contains a lot of calcium, very, very high level of calcium, because the mothers, of course, crunch their way through lots of bones, and as well as protein, high level of fatty acids, lots of vitamins and minerals, and therefore, hopefully, as long as he stocks up at the milk bar, he'll bounce back from the injury. Hello, precious one. Oh, here we go. It's time to investigate the vehicle. Nope. Nope. I know what you want to do. I can read you like a book. She wants my shoes. She's got something stuck to her face. Where's your mama? So all three of the cubs are going to be named very shortly. Corky's daughter and Heart's boy and girl. So that all the sorts of older cubs will have names. But we really need to make sure that Corky's daughter's got a feisty, fitting name for her fierce personality. Horse lover, yes, I believe so. It's a cub drive today. I was hoping for a leopard cub for you, but sadly, Dandy's son was not found. I think the weather is just making it really difficult for leopards right now, but I'm sure in a day or two time they'll all bounce out of nowhere. But yes, it's a cub drive. A lot of people call it hyena young ones pups. And it's really not the case. They're not part of the Canidae family, and normally pups is for the canids. And because hyenas are slightly more related to the felids than the canids, we normally opt for cubs. It is not closely related to the felids, I must add, but it's more so close to the cats than the dogs. She just wants attention. Christo, that's a tricky question. And here in the Sabi Sands, and I'm a big believer of this. I know it's a controversial topic, but wild animals must be wild animals. We're lucky to be here. Every day I remind myself I'm so lucky to be driving in a wild space, a very unique wild space with these creatures. Now, if we were not filming every day, if we were not driving every day, we would never know what happens. Animals will get diseases. It's part of nature. It's nature's way of controlling populations. Animals will get injuries. Animals will die. And I think it's really important just to remind ourselves of that. We can't go interfering every single time there's an injury. We would completely unbalance the entire ecosystem. The knock-on effects would be so detrimental. We can't do that. Now, I know in some areas they do. For example, in the Masai Mara, they have slightly different policies. And if an animal is injured due to a human cause, be it a car, be it a snare, anything that's caused by human presence in their environment, then they intervene. And the Sabi Sands is very similar. For example, Swazi had a wire around his neck. We don't know how he got it, and we don't know where it came from. Snare, wire, same thing. And we opted to remove it because that's come from humans. Be it poachers or be it a construction site. If humans were not present in his environment, in his landscape, he would not have got that wire around his neck. So if it's caused by humans, humans fix it. But otherwise, you must let the ecosystem play out. as hard as it is, it can be heartbreaking at times. But nature has its own way of establishing balance, just like our bodies establish homeostasis, constantly striving for balance. There's always an offset in our own human bodies, and that's when things start to go wrong. If we sort of go out of balance in our serotonin levels, for example, it can lead to depression. So when things go out of balance, we get diseases or viruses or illnesses or ailments in humans, and it's exactly the same with nature as a whole or an ecosystem. Everything in nature will strive for balance, and it's really important that humans don't upset that. So in answer to your question, Crystal, they will intervene if it's been a human-caused injury, but otherwise it's very important to let nature take its place, and nature's hard, it's not easy. We watch predators kill prey all the time. That's also sad, but it's nature. And yes, I mean, if there's a tortoise in the middle of the road and it's going to get run over, you can pick it up and move it. You're not supposed to pick up tortoises, but of course, as long as you move it to an area with water, you can move it out the way if it's really blocking the road. But otherwise, it's a difficult decision, and I think every incident is treated case by case. But it's not something that's taken lightly, that's for sure. Sadly, not every organism is supposed to make it. Shamari, yes, they only suckle from their own mothers. They don't allosuckle like lions. That does not happen. But sometimes you'll find the lowest ranking female, who in this situation is either June or Corky, I'm not sure, may allow the high-ranking cubs like Ngwazi and Shimbulu to suckle from her because she's being effectively bullied. The high-ranking cubs might try to bully her, assert their dominance, and she just might allow it to happen. Where are you going, madam? And it's not a general rule. It's just sometimes you'll find low-ranking mothers are so used to being bullied by cubs and adults, they just allow it to happen if the high-ranking cubs demand. But no, generally speaking, they don't allosuckle. Corky's daughter got a little bit too close here, and Hart made a little vocalization earlier, as if to say, I'm happy for you to come around and give kisses, but no milk for you. And she's obviously entertaining herself because Corky's not present. Can you please be careful up there? Sabit? No, I've not seen her. But I do believe that she has been seen by other vehicles. Now, not many people around here follow the hyenas, but a lot of people are finding them so interesting and finding it interesting to spend time at the den. And there was a sighting called in the other day with one mother and one larger cub, i.e. not June. I think it was Corky, but I've not personally seen her, no. But they'll come and go from the den as they please. She also needs to stock up on her reserves, make sure that she feeds so that she can come back and feed her daughter. And the lower ranking females tend to feed infrequently. It's not regular, it's not constant. They tend to disappear and come back. But that milk that they are transferring to their offspring is of very, very high nutritional quality in large amounts. And that's why Corky's daughter has got to where she is today. A feisty, fierce, curious little girl. So I'm going to stay here just a little bit longer and hope that June appears. And we may get a chance to see that little black bear inside.
Have you been watching WildEarth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. WildEarth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live WildEarth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
My name is Ross and I'm a field guide at andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on WildEarth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
This is Rusty. He's my favorite vehicle and we've been through all the good times here in the bush. Now, if you feel a connection to Djuma Game Reserve like I do, then we have a fantastic opportunity for you. You can have your name engraved on a brushed metal plaque just like this one, and we will attach it to Rusty so you can always be with us on safari in spirit. We will even send you a digital photograph once your plaque is mounted on Rusty. Spaces are limited, so grab your spot now.
Hello, boy. You are a monster. And he's coming right up to us. Hello, boy. Oh, settle down. Settle down. He is very, very close. He's pushing his trunk against the car. You can feel the car moving. Hey, 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 hey. Stop that.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Welcome back. We've come down onto the floodplain, our Phinda floodplain, to this little herd of waterbuck. It's so beautiful, the sun's setting behind us. It's kind of illuminating that bright green grass.
Back from 61.
Apologies. Yeah, it's just a really, really beautiful scene with some fever trees in the background. Got this one male with his group of females, his harem, as you'd call it. All staring off into various directions, making sure all directions are under watch. Some feeding. They really are a unique antelope though. They are so different compared to most of the other ones that we've got. They're not nearly as nimble looking. They're quite sturdy. I'll use the word sturdy. We've got the elegant kudu and the impala, who are so nice and nimble with those skinny legs, good for running. And then the furry, frumpy waterbuck. They still are very beautiful. They're probably one of my favorite antelope, actually, I'd say, just because of how different they are. I also like how furry they are. And that beautiful heart-shaped nose. Gosh, coming down onto this open area, it is very windy. This group actually is often here. There's a watering hole quite nearby. Jennifer, like I said, I also do love waterbuck. They're quite an interesting antelope. They also are not very favored by predators because they secrete an oil that isn't very tasty and it doesn't smell very nice. It helps to kind of waterproof their thick fur though, for if they were to swim. But it also helps with deterring predators. Not to say that they are never eaten by predators, but That male he keeps checking all of the females. If you notice, he keeps going up to their bums and sniffing. That one's just, yeah, he's obviously trying to work out if any of them are ready to mate with. There you go, he's doing it again. He goes up and kind of leans his head right against their bum. That one that he's doing to now actually seems very receptive. She's got her tail up out of the way. Looked like he was about to mount, and then she's walked off. So you can see how her tail's moved out to the side like that. Well, she just needs to give him a bit of a chance. No, she looks like she's getting annoyed with him. Oh my gosh. Every time she stands still for a moment, he doesn't take his opportunity, and then it's too late. She gets over it and moves off. It'll be quite interesting to see them mate. I don't think I've ever seen waterbuck mate before. Well, hopefully she gives him that opportunity. All trotting off now. I think that the wind is picking up. It's obviously causing them to feel a bit anxious. Lana, no, waterbuck are not seasonal breeders, so they will they'll breed all year round, just as the females come in and out of season, but that's their own season, not seasons of weather. Those that have breeding seasons are the impala, the wildebeest, warthogs, but the rest are kind of year-round breeders. You can see that there aren't any youngsters with them at the moment, but hopefully if he's successful, then we will have a few young waterbuck. But I think we actually came down to the floodplain to look for an elephant, and we can see him far in the distance. So we're going to see if we can get a bit closer, but we're going to send you over to the sunset at Ngala.
Have a look at this picture. This is another stunning sunset from andBeyond Ngala. The sun looks like it's just dipping below both the clouds and the mountains, and so we are going to be treated to some beautiful colors within the next couple of minutes. And whilst I have you, there were a few questions that I got asked last night that I wasn't sure of the answers to, so I'd like to just get back to all of the viewers. The first one was from Jonathan, and he was asking if lions enter the state of REM sleep. And for those of you who don't know what REM is, it stands for rapid eye movement sleep. So that's basically the state in which humans have the ability to dream. And according to a couple of articles, it seems like most mammals do go into a state of REM sleep. So there's every chance that lions will do. I didn't really see if there was an actual article on lions entering REM sleep, but it is by all means possible. And then the second one was from Viola, and she was asking if owls can see in color. And I was almost thinking out loud and saying that that's because they're nocturnal, they need their eyesight more to see in darkness. And it turned out to be true. So they tend to see more in a monochrome color, and they've got excellent far sight. They actually have got very weak near sight vision. And so they've got, I was talking about cones and rods last night. So cones are for color, rods are for light. And if we compare the cones and the rods to humans, owls will have about 30 times the amount of rods to cones, so much more cells for light, whereas humans will only have about 20 times the amount of rod cells for color, so they can see much better during the night, but they can't see as well. So that was it. Thank you very much to Jonathan and Viola for those interesting questions. Always nice to be able to learn something for the day. It's always so beautiful, and I think these clouds just add to the dramatic scenes of the sunset. And it's almost better to watch the sunset as it's gone past the horizon and just see. I mean, even now, only talking to you in the last 2 or 3 minutes, the yellow is starting to get more orange. And there will be a stage when it gets to this beautiful pink color if we're lucky. And I mean, if we maybe zoom into two of those tall clouds there's almost like a golden lining, the tallest one. There, I think, let's have a look on. There's one that's, I think it's actually just formed this beautiful gold line on the very top of the cloud. There it is. They're coming into the center of frame now. We'll probably go to another beautiful spot and offer you a slightly different perspective of the sunset, and whilst we see how those hyenas are doing.
We are just having the best time here. Corky's daughter I think it's the alates. I'm not sure because I can't get a good enough look, but insects are streaming out of the mound and she can't stop eating them. They're annoying her, but at the same time they're fascinating her and they're also delicious. And then she spits them out and then she eats them again. But if she really is eating them, that's a lot of protein for her, in all seriousness. They're a really high source of protein. So she's sustaining herself. She also tried to attack a giant plated lizard that came out of the top of the mound. She was not successful. But everything is... Oh, there it is. The lizard's there. The lizard's there. She sees it. The lizard's also after the termites. Okay, that wasn't quite a chase, but she's so interested in everything that's going on here. You see the alate stream? The lizard's coming back. The lizard's coming back. Standoff. Oh, no. That's too big and scary, isn't it? This is incredible. The sightings I am having with giant plated lizards right now are just incredible. The lizard wants those termites. But he knows there's a hyena there. And although it's only a cub, it's a lot bigger than him. I don't think she would kill it. She would maybe chase it. There must be the alates. They're streaming out of this mound. Which means it's still functioning as an active termite mound. Can you believe it? Yes, it's alates. Look at that. Oh, yummy. Lizard's going for it. 1, 2. Can you just go a little bit closer there, Johan? Look at us crawling. That mound is alive. White ants, termites. Oh my goodness. This lizard is going to decimate the entire population of termites. This is so cool. Look, your food is right there. You're actually standing and sitting in your own food. He wants the alates though, do you see that? He doesn't really want the tiny white ones. The white ants, which are in fact termites, he wants the alates. Wow. Oh, everybody's coming to see me. Hello. Good afternoon. All under the car. The usual. Mobile laptop. Wow, you're seeing lizard buffet. Absolutely. All you can eat. 100 rand, all you can eat. At Termite City. You even get a free glass of Coca-Cola with it. Oh my goodness. More alates, more termites. This place is alive. It's crawling. Can you believe this is happening at the hyena den? The sunshine has done wonders for this lizard. And this is why there's so few termites that are successful, because almost everything eats them. From tiny little princess hyenas to lizards to all the birds of prey are on the ground at the minute. Every time I drive any of the roads here, I'm finding birds of prey, from snake eagles to tawny eagles, battaliers, all on the ground. And when we drive, they do fly up in the air, but they're feasting on the termites. Sorry, I'm just checking under my car. Triple trouble. Miley, this lizard does not change colour. But normally with any sort of reptile, they do darken slightly when they're sort of not active and they've not been solar powered, shall we say. Even my bearded dragon, my old bearded dragon, used to darken a little bit. Then they lighten slightly once the sun is up and they've done their sunbathing. But this particular lizard, the giant plated lizard, does not change colour. Isn't he gorgeous? Having the best time. Oh, the hyenas are having a little drink. That's so sweet, Johan. Look at that. They've now got their own little water hole. Hopefully it's not urine. Hopefully it's water. But with hyenas, one never knows. They get a lot of their moisture and hydration from mum's milk, but of course, they've got their own water hole now. Wow, this is too incredible. I'm going to stay here even longer than I already have, but you guys are going to cross to a magical scene at Phinda.
So we've come round to this elephant bull, who's just very peacefully grazing with the most stunning sunset in the background. It's just such a stunning scene, this beautiful open grassland and the awesome sky behind, and this elephant just enjoying his own company and enjoying this nice green grass. Gosh, it really is moments like this where you just have to seriously appreciate being out here, getting to watch epic sunsets like this almost every night. and being able to share them with people all across the world as well. I mean, how cool is that? Just looking through my binos now, I haven't actually really looked closely at him because I've just been taking in the whole kind of scene, but he's got quite a lot of fluid coming out of those glands on his face. And while we were approaching him, he kept his eye very trained on us. We kind of did like a big semicircle around him, and he kept turning with us the whole way we were coming around, like facing us. And as we started getting a little bit closer, he did give us a big head shake. And I'm wondering, or I'm rather deducing from those signs, that he is probably in must, this elephant. We've kept our distance for that reason, but also just because, I mean, why we don't need to be much closer than we are already. It's a lot around here that makes the scene special, and I think, yeah, taking it all in instead of just zooming right up on the elephant is what makes it special. Thomas, I don't know how old this elephant bull is exactly. I can predict for you. Wait, so we'll see his head. He's got quite a big head. I want to see, the other way you kind of tell is from the indentations on above his eye there, which are quite deep. I would say he's probably in his 50s, this elephant bull. Maybe late 40s to 50s. But pretty cool. I mean, we like I said, he was very interested in us, watched us all the way around, gave us one good head shake as we came around the corner, and us keeping our distance now, he's just perfectly happy to, oh, there we go, do a wee, firstly. But yeah, very happy for us to just watch him, and he's even turned his back on us a little bit. Now he's walking across the plain. Yeah, see, even what he's doing now, urinating like that as he's moving, and it's just kind of coming out in spurts and it's dribbling quite a bit, that's also a sign of him being in must. See how he's just very lazily dragging his trunk along the ground. Another spray of urine. Okay, we're going to stick with this elephant and see what he gets up to. He's in quite an interesting stance now. Got his trunk balanced on one of his tusks. At the same time as defecating and urinating. I think he's probably in quite an uncomfortable state. Another spurt of urine. Shame. He doesn't really look tail up. Goodness gracious, it's all happening here. Yeah, but I think we're going to stick with him for a while we've still got light. But we're going to send you back to some termites and to some hyenas.
It's an exodus of future kings and queens from this mound. Every time I look up, it's like I almost think I'm in Scotland and it's snow going in the opposite direction, which wouldn't make any sense, but they're everywhere. Good luck, guys. Future royalty.
After a drinks break on any updates, please?
And I've just realized this is the cubs' first summer, in that they've never experienced this before. They've never had a puddle to drink from at their own den side. That's why they keep splashing in it. They've probably only recently started to see the algae streaming from their own home. And they don't, it's all new to them. Look at them trying to eat them. Yummy. Food is in the air. What a great find. But I've already mentioned it, especially with Shimbulu with an injured leg and Corky's daughter maybe not getting fed as often. These little alates, if they're really managing to catch them, will be like a punch of protein and moisture and amino acids right there. It's almost as if they don't understand what's happening to their mound. Wow. And many people ask, what eats termites? The cup is out, the cup. Hello. Good evening. Your mama's not here. Don't let Ngwazi and Shimbulu and Corky's princess lead you astray. This is honestly really magical. The cup, oh, the cup. Oh, we really want to know what's going on, don't we? We want to know, where's Mom? Where's all the others? What's happening? This is just a feast. This is the best night ever for the cubs. Every single one of them are eating the alates. How precious, their first summer. Oh! Oh, many of you are happy to see the cub. Me too. Now, don't worry, everyone. Ribbon's still snoring her head off in the distance. We'll just give you a brief visual in case you think I'm at the den without an adult. The matriarch herself is there. Probably not keeping a very good watchful eye, but she's... Oh, no. There we go. Sorry. Threw me under the bus. This is Heart's parent. Sorry, I've got a little bit confused. Spot confusion. Ngwazi and Shimbulu are clearly fast asleep. It's the other three that are causing trouble. Pool party. They're not oh, sticks. Wet sticks. Life could not be better right now. Ryan, you are asking the ultimate question here that I love to answer. It's very difficult. They have very similar looking genitals. Now, a male has an actual functioning penis, so can produce sperm, and testicles, as most male mammals do. However, the females, they have what looks like a penis, but it's actually not. They call it a pseudo-penis because it's not a functioning penis. It's not producing sperm. It can't fertilize or do the job that a male would do. And it also appears that she has testicles. No, she's not. It's just fused labia and fatty pads at the back that give the appearance of testicles. So it's all rather bizarre. And the pseudopenis itself is basically a hypertrophied penile clitoris. Yes, that's a mouthful. I bet you're glad you asked this question, Ryan. So they look the same. Now, there's only a slight difference. And that's why we normally have to do lots of genital observations. Now, I don't want to disturb this view of the cub. I'm going to show you a diagram when it disappears, and it's just going to highlight what we're looking for when we're trying to tell the difference. Now, once they reach adulthood, the males are smaller. Hyenas are one of the few mammals where the females are larger. The This one's far too scared to even think about leaving this entrance. Once he or she, who knows, pops their head down, I'll just show you a quick diagram and you'll be able to understand what we're looking for. And it's really, really not easy. Excuse the hand drawings. Now here, we have the penis of the male. So this is an actual functioning penis. And you see how it almost looks like a triangle at the tip. This is the triangular glandular tip. And that's what we're looking for. If we just zoom in a little bit closer, you'll be able to see this triangle is a male. And when we actually had Swazi darted, the vet did a closer inspection to make sure the glands were there to 100% confirm that Swazi was a boy. And if we just move over here, you see a pseudo penis. It's still the same sort of length and shape, but at the end it'll be more flat. Now this is a rough sort of indication of what they look like. And it's a hypertrophied penile clitoris. I managed to say that twice in one drive. And just to give you an even further explanation, for a female, this of course is the womb. And the birthing canal is twice as long as other mammals, and there's a 90-degree bend. So the young cubs have got to make their way from the womb all the way along this birthing canal, take a turn, and go out before birth. Now that can't be easy, and 60% of cubs are said to suffocate during this process. So, in answer to your questions, it's not easy to tell the difference between male and female, especially the youngsters, and we really have to sort of focus and zoom in and do lots of speculating before we get the answer. But for this cub, this little one, we won't know for a while. It's really not obvious until they get a little bit older. So I think Ribbon has got up now, which means sadly our time at the den has come to an end.
So you've stayed with this elephant, and sadly you missed the funniest part of it because he really is in a mood. He came through a herd of zebra and a couple of herds of wildebeest, and he was shaking his head and, you know, kind of telling everyone to get out of the way. And everyone went scattering in all directions, all the zebra and the wildebeest. They're all kind of watching him now as he continues to graze. he's been pulling up grass by the roots and then flicking it against himself to get rid of the all the dust and mud on the roots. Here are the wildebeest who've been rudely uprooted from where I think they may have wanted to spend the night, but you can see some are already starting to settle down, so they don't mind. Still slowly grazing, and they'll be kind of... Sean, we actually do have 2 tuskers on the reserve, very newly added to the reserve. They came to us from Tembe Elephant Reserve, I think about 3 months ago. So yeah, we've actually got 2 at the moment on Phinda. You can see this guy, although he's got relatively impressive tusks, they're nice and thick. They're not very, very long like that of the tuskers. Fiona, elephants aren't really territorial. They will, they travel quite big distances. They often migrate as well if the space that they occupy allows it. So, no, they're not territorial. A male like this one, an elephant bull, especially in his state of must, he'll be seeking out herds of females now to mate with. And, yeah, so that's what he follows. He follows the females. And the females follow the food, so they don't hold a certain territory. They'll kind of keep to certain migratory routes, which apparently are handed, kind of through the generations. These same routes that a herd will make use of over years and years and years. And I guess it's just the youngsters growing up doing that route, and then. Yeah, they kind of do the route with their youngsters and et cetera, and they just continue to do the same route. Here on Phinda, though, the elephant herds do tend to occupy the northern part of the reserve. I think the reason for that is just that the canopy species of trees are quite a bit higher. So down in the south of the reserve, all the trees are rather not shrub-like, but they don't get very tall. They're not quite kind of high enough to conceal a herd of elephants. Whereas up in the north, the trees are quite a lot taller, and I think they just feel a lot more safe there. We are going to cross over to infrared, so it may go black and white in 3, 2, 1. I hope that's worked. I can't see. But yeah, so I mean, on Phinda, they do seem to kind of hold a territory, but I wouldn't really call it a territory. It's not that they occupy that out of kind of competition with other herds. It's more just comfort and where they feel happiest. It's actually like quite a few herds that are together up there, and when it rains, if there's quite a lot of rain, the elephants head down to the south of the reserve. For what reason I don't really know. We are sitting on a floodplain where 2 rivers meet, so when there is enough rain, and when I say enough, I mean a lot of rain, this all actually is underwater. I don't know if that's what the elephants, when it starts raining, that's what they might be hoping for a nice big body of water. Can you imagine how much fun they would have? Because I think it doesn't get very deep. It just stays like a relatively open area, and I don't think it gets very deep, but it would be quite fun, an awesome sight to see a herd of elephants charging along over in the water. We've got a question about whether or not elephants can survive just on grass. I honestly don't know the answer to that question. I think that theoretically speaking, they probably would be able to, but I can't foresee any circumstance where they would only eat grass. Their diet is so mixed and so varied. They eat roots, they eat bark, grass, twigs, leaves, pretty much every part of lots of different types of vegetation. So I don't think that would ever be the case where they have to just survive off grass. But theoretically speaking, I don't see why they wouldn't be able to. They would have to eat a lot of it, though. Obviously, eating bark and roots is a little bit more substance to their diet as opposed to just grass, which isn't very weighty. Yeah, so I suppose my answer is I don't know for sure, but my guess would be if they absolutely had to, then yes, I think that they would be able to. Okay, well, I think we are going to leave this elephant here on the floodplain. He seems quite content eating grass. He'll probably spend the night here. I don't doubt that he will soon be heading off to find a herd of females to harass in his, in his state. We're going to send you across to Lauren, who is searching. I'm not sure what for, but we are also going to embark on a search for some of the nocturnal animals.
We had to leave the den, unfortunately. Ribbon left. Mommy left. There's no more babysitters. So I'm now spotlighting to see what I can find, but in summer, spotlighting is not as fun. All the insects love to just fly into the light. You have to sort of do this kind of maneuver, but the alates are streaming everywhere. It's paradise right now. We'll try and see if we can find another active mound for you, but the termites really are in full force. And I remember my last stint, I was also looking for termites, but there just was not enough moisture in the ground. They wait for the rains, and after the rains we've had the past few days, it's obviously been enough. They maybe have a moisture meter or a moisture level, and they think, right, okay, the ground is wet enough, it's time to fly. And that's why the alates are flying. They wait for the rains because they need to burrow into the ground. And when the ground is really hard and dry, when there's been no rain and no moisture, they're not going to be able to do that. So that's why they're waiting. They're waiting for the rain in order for the ground to be much softer, and they can burrow in with their mate, their future lover, their future king or queen, and attempt to start their own new colony, progenitors of their own race. So obviously there's just been enough moisture now. We had rain the last stint, but it really wasn't as heavy as what we're experiencing right now. Or at least this morning and last night. So fabulous. It's really the time of the termites. So I'm going to try and pick up on any signs of anybody around quarantine, but it appears like Andrew is going to give you a wonderful segment with some buffalo.
Okay, heading back across the floodplain, we came across 2 white rhinos. They look like they may be heading somewhere to settle down for the night. They're not really feeding, just walking along, making their way to somewhere where they will probably lie down. We've been driving through a few areas of kind of open muddy or sandy patches, like dry mud or sand patches. And generally, rhino will choose a patch like that to spend the night on, because it's just doesn't have too many irritations like ticks or even flies. There are a few less flies on the sand, even just the tickle of the grass. So rhinos do prefer to lie down on those kind of grassless patches. It looks like they're just kind of slightly on the scent of something, the way they're walking along like that, sniffing. They look pretty much the same size, so I don't think that it's, sometimes you'll see a male following a female quite adamantly like that, sniffing along behind her, but they look quite the same size, so I don't think that that's the case here. Because it's so dark, I'm somewhat blind. I can't tell you if they are males or females. But yeah, I think we'll leave them to carry on with their search for a spot to spend the night, and we shall carry on with our search for some more nocturnal animals.
I think it's a little bit too far now for our IR light, but we've just been watching Heart on quarantine, just scoffing up all the termites. It's a feast for everyone tonight. I bet you leopards will be doing the same. I'm sure the lions will have a lick or two at the ground. But sadly, she's just gone too far. The IR light only... Oh, she's walking right towards the impala. Oh, maybe it might be worth just staying here for a few seconds. I'm sorry the screen is so dark. The IR only has about a reach of 30 meters. You can see all the eye shine. I hope that's all the impala. I don't quite know which direction Heart went in, but they're not happy. They're not settled. Impala do alarm call for hyenas. I've witnessed it many times, and that can only show you one thing. If an animal's alarm calling, like they do at leopards, for a hyena, that tells you right there and then that hyenas hunt them and stalk them. We've got something moving over here, Johan. Now it's very far, but it looks like it could be predator-ish. Let's just try and see if we can get it with the IR light. It's exactly 9 o'clock. Johan and I sit at different positions in the car, so we'll have different perspectives. Oh, don't tell me it's just an impala. Oh. Okay. It's an impala, my apologies. With the eye shine, it's almost impossible to gauge size. Let's bumble. Oh my goodness, one more time with that name, Jared. Let's try it. Let's try and get this name right, Lauren. Jasto Fasto. Jasto Fasto. That's a new one. Welcome. You're asking, what does animals on quarantine mean? Okay, my apologies. So the area that we are actually in right now is called quarantine. That's just its name. I think we're going to bumble, Johan. And it's a clearing. It's an open clearing. So a long time ago, it sort of was cleared specifically. And when we say animals on quarantine, we just mean the impalas that are in this area right now. Just like most of the roads have names, this is just called quarantine. And it does have a history, and animals were kept in quarantine a very, very long time ago. And there's also a leopard that was born here, and his name is Quarantine. Yes. So it's just an area, my apologies. I always assume that everyone knows what we're talking about because we do this every single day. But the reason we check quarantine is right next to our camp. Our camp's just right here. I can almost smell dinner. Is because it's a very active area. You'll find lots of antelopes because it's open. At night time, they like to be in the open area so they can see, smell, hear. If they're in the thicket, then they might not be able to see a predator coming. So because of the high level of herbivores and the high level of prey, you normally find a lot of predator activity. And that's why we have so many predators in our camp. We have leopards coming through. We have had lions in the past, but that's not so common, and a lot of hyenas coming through. We've also had wild dogs. I've got an alley down my shirt. No. We've also had wild dogs kill a kudu in our camp. Our camp is very, very wild. But yes, quarantine's a great area because of the high number of prey. It's going to attract a high number of predators. It's the most perfect environment. I don't know if you can see all the alleys that are flying into our car, but they're everywhere. Okay, so we're just going to go for a quick bumble, see if we can find any nocturnal animals for you as I try to get out of the way of this little thickney here.
My favorite animal is a leopard, purely because I just think they are just the epitome of feline grace and power, and the way they can move about in any environment and remain hidden until they want to be seen, I just find incredibly intoxicating, and they're amazingly beautiful.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth.
Join our Explorers program so we can keep on sharing nature with the world. For a monthly subscription, you will have the opportunity to win fantastic WildEarth expeditions, have access to an animal identification app, receive weekly highlights from our shows, and much more. All the money will go to keeping these live safaris on air, which in turn connects a global population with nature.
My name is James Hendry, and I work here at Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi sands on the western fringes of the greater Kruger National Park. My favorite part of getting questions from viewers is that we get to have long and varied discussions about all sorts of different aspects of nature. Because our audience comes from all over the world, it's very special to have different perspectives from everywhere. If you want to submit a question on WildEarth, you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to the Live Safari page and submit your question beneath the live feed.
Welcome to my car. This is Wendy, and she's my favorite. She would love to have your name engraved on her so you can be with her every single time she goes on a safari here in Djuma. If you become a WildEarth explorer, you will have the opportunity to buy an engraved tag which we will attach to her. We will make sure to send you a digital picture to show you exactly where you are sitting on her. You will have front row seat in every single sighting.
Okay, so we've got something really special. We've got Jupiter and Saturn framed up there for you, and you can see how close they are. And the reason this is so special is because it's been almost 400 years since these two planets have been this close to one another. And even more special, it's been nearly 800 years since it has been this, them being this close together has happened at night. So although 400 years ago about, they were this close, it wasn't observed because it wasn't at night time. So there we go. Pretty special stuff. And it falls on this this day, our longest day of 2020 here in South Africa. We've been our latest sunset at like 6:45, and from here on the days will just start to get a bit shorter, little by little. But what an incredibly special thing to witness and be able to see and be able to share with you all. Oh, sorry about that, we've lost signal very briefly. Yes, I've also referred to it being called a Christmas star. And I would, I think that it's fairly easy to know why they've named it that, seeing as Christmas is just 4 days away. Yeah, even when we zoom away a little bit, it actually looks like it's just one star. So even though it's not a star, we know it's 2 planets, but it does look like one kind of superstar. I'm sure as it starts to get darker, we've still got quite a lot of light here. The horizon's still tinged with pink and yellow and green. But as it darkens, I think that star will or those planets will get brighter and brighter. Yeah, it was great camera work. Well done, Owen. Okay, well, we'll end just sitting here watching this beautiful scene and this special astronomical occurrence. But yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed the evening drive, and I hope you guys all join tomorrow morning at 5:30 Central Africa time. Enjoy your evening.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, everybody, and to all of our viewers around the world. We are here watching this Natal spurfowl down in the Timbavati River on Ngala, and we are currently looking for tracks of that pride of lions that we had last night. So come and join us, and welcome to your very own live African safari.